A very, very vibrant place to do it, considering the fact that they debuted here last year too. So great to see them do it on this surface. So brilliant for them, and credit to Ernst Kirkmeyer and Philip Barron on achieving that record. But I tell you what, it all starts, it's all renewed here this time. 27 minutes and 30 still to go, and they're rushing up to Remus now.
Yes, and we saw a look there at the number 19 Oregon Lamborghini, and that was one that conked out on the run up the hill that these cars have just gone past in yesterday's race, with Pietro Parolini behind the wheel, having fought quite valiantly to stay within the top 5. And that was a fuel pump issue, we were told, yesterday, and hopefully all good on that car. Now he was able to reset it and get it going again, but hopefully things run a bit smoother for them on that side of the garage, because on the other side of the garage for the 63 crew, it was an absolutely perfect day. Pole position for Maximilian Paul, and a dominant victory for him and Pierre-Louis Chauvet. Yeah,
Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul delivering, and that is their 3rd win in their last 3 rounds as well. And they could yet make it 4 today if they have a good run, but it will be that much tougher with the 10-second handicap that they've now got against their name heading into this particular race. So it's going to be a challenge.
And that's on top of the 10 seconds that they had previously already. So I think it's 20 seconds they have to take in today's race. So that's going to be very difficult for them indeed. This is Giorgio Cernighiotto in the number 25 AF Corsa Ferrari, the Ferrari 296. We're seeing more and more of these 296s out in the GTOpen field. We have, in fact, 5 of them out in this field of the 8 Ferraris in total. So still a couple of the old 488s lingering around, but great to see these new cars, and yeah, especially this one with the nice blue livery. This is the AM-entered AF Corsa, and AF Corsa very present in the International GTOpen with quite a number of cars across all 3 of the driver classes. Andy Gilbert at the wheel of the Altitude Racing McLaren, and he was beating himself up quite a bit yesterday after spinning at that turn 1 whilst fighting for 2nd place in class, and he'll be hoping things go a little bit smoother today.
Yeah, he wasn't the only man to do it though. We did see, of course, a similar spin to that in qualifying. Of course, Anthony Bartone, Gilbert though running a little wide at turn 3 and having to recover again, but still early days. You can recover from this at this point. Purple in the first sector already for Conrad Grunwald in the AM class as the drivers look to get accustomed to this circuit. Of course, yesterday, if you tuned in, you would have known that we were around track temperatures of 13 degrees in that early morning. Obviously, we had the mist dissipating, as it does so here in the mountains, and naturally, here in Spielberg, that is a constant theme. But as we move into the midday, we'll generally see those temperatures lift between 30 to 40 degrees out on track. So it's going to be interesting to see how the drivers manage that. I'm speaking to Reece Barr this morning, and he said how it certainly does affect the grip levels in terms of the tyres in its own right. So it is tricky to manage on the odd occasion. Certainly some drivers they do struggle to perhaps get accustomed to it than others, but nevertheless, all of them doing a smashing job out there. Speaking of the devil, in fact, Reece Barr currently haunting that rear wing of Andrew Gilbert's McLaren right now as they look to now take yet another lap.
And they took their first podium in the championship yesterday alongside Mikael Pitamba, the SPS pairing, very young pairing. They're just 19 and 22 years old they are. And speaking of young, Aaron Walker here, the 17-year-old Briton, who's come over from racing in British GT and GT World Challenge Europe as well. New teammate for him this weekend in the form of Anthony Bartone, the American racer from a family of drag racers. But he's been trying his hand in GT racing, only his 2nd year of competition, but for Aaron Walker, still very much early on in his racing career. And the orange Get-to-Be Mercedes is one of 4 cars I think they're fielding this weekend.
Coming down into Slosh Gold now, trying to keep it tight to the apex, and Aaron Walker will put his foot down yet again before he then takes Roche and Verth Curve. And of course, this middle sector, which can be tricky. You've got to be careful of the gravel on the right-hand side, because that can very easily catch you out. And manages to curtsy that Mercedes through this next double left. And he's going to come up against some traffic as well. Very impressed with Aaron Walker based on his abilities behind the wheel. Certainly we saw that yesterday as well.
Yes, do you want to feel old, George?
I hope not.
I can tell you when he was born, if you like.
Oh, goodness me. Let's not unearth that stone, shall we?
Okay.
Yeah, incredible. Speaking of people who perform well, Nicolo Schiro, who we're currently riding on board with as well, stellar closeout to the race yesterday, brought it home in fantastic fashion, and what can only be described as a stellar podium performance for them as well. We got talking to them in the garage afterwards, and they were delighted with that. And unfortunately, of course, we were watching the Clio Cup at the time, and obviously that big barrel roll coming out of turn 7. But they were absolutely stellar yesterday, and a partnership I think we can all enjoy for races to come.
Yes, finished second in Pro-Am yesterday, and of course they've been a consistent force in the Pro-Am standings this year. They went into this weekend third in the championship, with a podium to their name at the Spa Enduro, which of course is worth double points, and that's a very important round to be scoring well in, because it does elevate you in terms of the championship. Still not quite on the level of Eddie Cheever and Marco Porcini in the AF Corsa Ferrari, who lead the championship still, quite comfortably, actually. And speaking they shall appear, there is the number 27 car that we were just talking about, with at the wheel, and he was about to go fastest by the looks of it, but only third for him in the end, behind Karol Bash and Milos Pavlovic. And there he's tucked up right behind Charlie Fagg at the moment in that red Zebra McLaren.
Yeah, purple in the first 2 sectors, but obviously frustrated with the fact that he is currently sat right behind. Karol Bash, though, has already gone purple in those first 2 sectors as we get the time deltas cascading downwards. We'll see him cross the line, I'm sure, very shortly, already on top, and already finding just under 5.5
to do in that number 63 car, so we can match that pace. It is considerably cooler because we're out for qualifying slightly earlier than we were yesterday, so that might affect the overall timings. But Karol Bash here still pushing in that number 777 Olymp Audi, the one that won the Pro-Am classification yesterday. And of course, when the pros are in the car, they can still very much mix it up at the overall front end of the field. And as you see at the moment, top 3 cars are all Pro-Am.
Yeah, Karol Bash is a stellar driver.
Top 4 now.
Yeah, exactly. We got currently now, well, Charlie Fagg has just upset that issue. Second fastest now for the Optimum Motorsport McLaren. The red Zebra back on track after the DNF yesterday, but they are fighting back. Karol Bash incidentally, purple second sector.
Mercedes, and Bash coming into the pits. Maybe a fresh set of boots going on that car, although the tyre wear doesn't seem to be that much of an issue here, and particularly in these lower temperatures that we're seeing this morning as well. So it could well be that they keep the same set of tyres on. Is Aaron Walker again, heading up towards turn 3, and I do love the new Get Speed colours, but we'll come back to that in a second, because Pierre-Louis Chauvet putting the number 63 crew back on top provisionally with a 1:28.750, a full 18,000ths of a second quicker than Karol Bash.
Yeah, it's at a purple middle sector, 39.214, which is a super lap, or certainly a super sector, super lap to get things going as well for him. Karol Bash still purple in the first sector, as we know see Pierre-Louis Chauvet make his way through towards the Slosh Gold Bed.
Yeah, we've got a yellow flag out at turn 4 at the moment. This is Serna Giotto getting a little out of shape in the exit of turn 1. Now, are we going to see why we have yellows at turn 4 here?
Oh, yes,
at the
Street
moment?
Art, I think.
Oh, and yeah, Chauvet was dipping it through the gravel as well there.
Yeah, it looked like the Street Art car, which is staggered on the inside. I'm not quite sure, but it looked like that livery, of course, just trapped in the gravel out of turn 4. So Chauvet, it wasn't.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is. Jahid Faisal Karim, who unfortunately now has taken a trip into the gravel, and hopefully he can get that going. But the red flag has been called.
I was going to say that looks pretty beached. So for the second time this weekend, we have a red flag almost at exactly the same point, about halfway through qualifying, because it was the Benaldi car, Sampon Javanil, who ended up in the gravel at turn 6 and brought out the red flags in yesterday's qualifying session. Today it's the turn of Jahid Faisal Karim in the Street Art Aston Martin.
Yeah, reds ablaze here at Austria, and naturally now we're going to be seeing the cars make their way around into the pit lane. There's the tractor out on the circuit, well, in the gravel trap anyway, to tow the car clear and free from any danger. And the marshal's doing a fantastic job to make sure that racing, or indeed qualifying, goes unperturbed at this point. But we are here under red flag conditions. The car's now coming into the pit lane, and they'll get set ready for when we go back out again. Still 16 minutes and 45 to go. The clock has been stopped, so it won't be, or there shouldn't be any, should we say, disruption in terms of the amount of time left. But of course, we do have a very vibrant run of championships running today at a track formerly known as the Österreich Ring, A1 Ring, of course now known as the Red Bull Ring. In comes the Oregon Lamborghini. And
so provisional times at the moment with 16:45 left on the clock. Pierre-Louis Chauvet on provisional pole with a 1:28.750. Carol Bash on Pro-Am pole, second overall, 18 thousandths of a second away from that. Then about a quarter of a second behind them, Charlie Fagg in the Oxford Motorsport McLaren. Christopher Haase right up there as well in fourth with Yannick Mettler. New championship leader, Diego Menchaca, in 6th place. And pole position at the moment is Giuseppe Cipriani in 10th place overall for Il Baron Rampante, and that's a solo entry where he drives himself, doesn't share the car with anyone, so does the full race distance by himself. And actually, Giuseppe Cipriani is about 4/10 clear of Kirkmeyer, yesterday's race winner, in terms of the AM classification.
yeah, it's getting very tight, certainly in terms of the championships in all 3 categories. That's been the story pretty much all year long. And obviously with the point swerve the way they have, obviously Menchaca currently leading with that of Seabear, 97 points to their name, after picking up a stellar 12 yesterday. Respa as well, and that's of Mikael Pitambra, have been working hard this season. Of course, they needed a little bit of luck to fall their way. Their best performance was P4 up till now. Scored their first podium, as we alluded to. They now sit on 38 points, which they've acquired to themselves. They've managed to get the Street Art Aston back underway, so moving it onto the road, where Charlie Fagg incidentally parked his car yesterday to bring an end to their race at Optimum Motorsport. We're now going to see Jahid Faisal Karim make his way back, hopefully onto the circuit. He can rejoin qualifying, fingers crossed, and when the red flag comes to an end, they'll make their way out to the pit lane.
Yes, now I'm waiting for the first time he touches the brakes and all the gravel to come flying out the front of the Aston Martin there. But actually looks pretty clean at the moment. There we go, can have a little listen to the V8 underneath the hood. Oh, and also the stones chipping away at it as well. So this is Pietro Perellini in the number 19, straddling that sausage curb on the exit of the first corner. Actually just had a time deleted, actually, has Perellini, and that has dropped him down the order. 12th place he is at the moment.
Gino Forgione as well behind the wheel of the AF Corsa Ferrari. They came to a bitter end yesterday, where Andrea Montemini had to bring it in. There's yesterday's winners. Of course, Pierre-Louis Chauvet behind the wheel in today's qualifying session. Maximilian Paul, who has also delivered 2 emphatic final stints to win races this season too. Giorgio Sunighiotto as well behind the wheel of the AF Corsa Blue Ferrari. And of course, a stellar driver in his own right, and the Red Zebra too.
Pit lane will open in 20 seconds time. We're going green again at 8:48 local time, so qualifying will get back underway, and we'll have just under 17 minutes to decide who's going to be on pole for today's 60-minute encounter. We had the 70-minute race yesterday. Today is the 60-minute. It's a slightly 2 different race distances that we run over the course of the weekend, and of course you have to run the different drivers as well. So everybody who qualified yesterday will hand over to their teammates to do qualifying for today and the first stint of the race.
Yeah, and a quick reminder as well, folks at home as well, if you want to understand the points scenario in terms of the actual championships in their own right. Of course, we have the main overall championship, which will decide the overall winner at the end of the season. For each round, each race, 15 points going to the winner, 12 points going to P2, 10 points going to P3, 8, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, as you'd expect. The only differing round being that of Spa-Francorchamps in round 2 earlier this year, which was essentially a double point scenario for the single race that they undertook. And then, of course, for the Pro-Am, we have yet again more points to certainly differ out to the many drivers depending on where they finished in terms of the Pro-Am category and also that of the Am2, and that'll run 10 points for a winner and 8 points for P2, 6 points for P3, 4, 3 and 2, so it's right down to P6, and of course those points are doubled as well for the endurance run at Spa as well. So there you are, just to give you guys an update. And if you want a category colour, just to understand the category colours between the Pro, Pro-Am and Am, it's red for Pro, it's blue for Pro-Am, and green for the Am as well. So you'll see that on the left-hand side on the timing screen. You can see each individual number, and those colours represent the categories that they are part of.
Joe Perellini here, warming up to another lap through the final corner. And now we haven't really talked about track limits much so far in this session, but there certainly has been a number of them, particularly in qualifying yesterday, and certainly in Friday practice as well, where there was some 12 pages of just notes saying time deleted, time deleted, time deleted. And we've seen a few of them in this session already. Now, car number 25, that was Giorgio Serlighiotto, is under investigation for alleged overtaking under red flag. And the team manager for that car, and indeed the 61 AF Corsa Ferrari, have to report to race control, presumably regarding that incident. So a slight internal miscommunication there, potentially under the red flag.
Yeah, Conrad Grunwald being car number 61. Of course, he's partnered with Jean-Claude Sada. Both have been successful in the Middle East prior to the start of the GTOpen season, and taking a victory in their own Am category when making their way around in that championship. The Golf 12 Hours they took part in the early proceedings of this year, as we now see Pietro Pirellini, who had some fun yesterday. Of course, once again renewed his fight with Nicola Marinangeli, that of course we saw back at Paul Ricard. Once again, it reared its head, heading up towards Remus, where they made contact, Chris.
Yes, so if the fireworks hadn't already gone off in Le Castellet, they did go off today, and they seem to be beating each other on track quite a bit lately, and not always in the friendliest of manners. But Perellini over the line here, a bit sluggish in the middle sector on that lap, but it is a personal best. It is 9th fastest for Perellini at the moment.
Yeah, 1:29.964. Immediately drops down to 10th place though, and is currently 1.2 off the top. Serlighiotto now goes 15th fastest. And the current Am leader is Giuseppe Cipriani, rolling back the years, of course, a former champion in the Am category, and a long-time member, almost his tenure in under the GT Sport organisation has been quite lengthy. He's been around for quite some time. Conrad Grunwald, however, has taken the top spot in the Am category, P10 currently overall, just within a second of that of Pierre-Louis Chauvet too. And of course Grunwald in his own right, also a drift star in the world, or certainly over in the United States of America. He's a very keen racer, and at the same time also a very superb drifter as well. We've also got Karol Bashvi alluded to, of course, leading the Pro-Am contingent in terms of the qualifying standings, but we know how capable he is in terms of an overall reflect. You know, we saw many a great battle with him last season in the Audi R8.
Oh, hello. Sorry, George. This is a smoking front left here on the 88 Ferrari.
That's on to Mini and Gio Forgione.
Yeah,
Forgione, should I say? Apologies. In fact, they had a bad day yesterday because they had to bring the car into a stop. They didn't finish yesterday. If you remember, they pulled it in after they had an issue earlier on in the start of the race. It does seem like there's something billowing out of the car, and whether Forgione's having some difficulties maintaining control. Has he got damage on the front left?
I think it's just rubbing up against the tyre there by the looks of it, but I'm surprised he's carried on for a lap and not brought it into the pit. So AF Corsa here having a slightly more dramatic session than they would have really wanted to. But Forgione here is continuing on his way, does seem to be struggling with the car, and well, I wonder why. It's because there's something very much amiss with that front left corner.
Yeah, I think you'll definitely have to bring that in. It's certainly not looking too great right now. I wonder where he sustained that, because that's obviously not a good place to be. He certainly didn't do it in the race yesterday.
There is damage there,
There
isn't
is.
there?
There is.
Yeah,
There's a
very
piece
much
off
damage.
Piece off the front in the left, and I think there might be. It's obviously rubbing against something. So you can now see the. Yeah, it's coming off the front left. Look, it's obviously struggling with that, and obviously if there is any inhibitant, you know, that gets in the way of the tyres as such, and especially when you're trying to make these corners. We saw it with Pierre-Louis Chauvet and Maximilian Paul at Paul Ricard, where they failed to finish in after, well, they brought the car home essentially, but it was in a terrible state, and they of course suffered with the steering arm, should we say, heading into the final corner in Seine Curve, and this very much almost a very similar aspect in a way.
It's worrying because if it rubs against the tyre too much, obviously it wears it down and then it punctures.
Yeah, punctures.
But clearly, at some point, he's come across something slightly firmer than the front bodywork of his car.
Yeah, absolutely right. He makes his way through turn 1, however, and still continues to go again.
Yeah, still carries on.
Nicolo Schiro up to 7th place. Giorgio Sinigiotto now up to 11th fastest. There we see the car belonging to that of Ernst Kirkmeyer and Philip Barron, who took the AM win yesterday. And like I said, of course, debuted here last year, and great to have them back for a full season campaign. And Kirkmeyer and Barron, I'm sure, were delighted with their performance. They were right in the thick of it too, as we know, right on board with Nicolo Schiro, who closed out a stellar run as well themselves, finishing P2 in that Pro-Am fight, now up to 37 points after scoring the 8 yesterday. Incidentally, Schiro, purple in that first sector, so he's already found a little bit of time already, 39 thousandths out of Sector 1, which is a very, very good start to the restart that we have had now, and certainly with 9 minutes and 40, that's exactly what you need.
3-litre twin-turbo V6 singing there in that number 38 Kessel Racing car. And now, it looks very close to the gravel, sounded very close to the gravel as well there on the exit of turn 6, but still improving here for Schiro, currently in 7th place. Didn't look like a personal best in the middle sector, but still overall an improvement on his lap. He's comes through the final corner now. We'll see where this puts him. Of course, he's got the Pro-Am fight to contend with as well. He's 3rd amongst those runners, and as he comes across the line, remains in 7th, but a little bit closer to the front. He's only 17 thousandths away from Yannick Mettler ahead of him.
Gino Forgione incidentally improving as well up to 21st place ahead of Timo Rumpf-Kyle, and now sees himself just outside the top 20. As you know, see Nicolo Schiro raise up towards Remus. He'll take turn 3 and then marshal his way down towards turn 4 here at Slosh Gold. But yes, already we're seeing Chauvet back at the top again, as we now see Eddie Cheever go 6th fastest, and they of course leading the Pro-Am Championship and coming home in 3rd yesterday as well.
That's Karel Bash going a little wide at the first corner there and taking his time rejoining the track. A little off-track excursion there for the car that's currently 2nd fastest.
Karel Bash, who, like I said before, such a talisman there for Olymp Racing, has delivered many a great race, so aggressive behind the wheel, as well as Nicola Marinancelli goes 10th fastest at this point too. Now this is the replay, and yes, she's got it right. Ooh, pivoted the car left and right, did very well to stop it from pivoting and essentially cascading into a barrier.
He's in the car park.
He is. I mean, you can park there, Carol, but I mean, you've got to wait till the timer's down first. Oh,
hello.
That's Giorgio Sinigiotto taking an excursion off at turn 4 as well. No buried treasure there, Giorgio.
Yes. Well, the two Audis line astern circuit at the moment. Schiro going on another lap, but yeah, Karel Bash, as you mentioned there, just one of those drivers who I would say hasn't had a fair enough crack at, you know, the level he deserves to be at, because he's some supremely talented driver, having won multiple Super Trofeo championships with Lamborghini. But when you go back and look at his karting record and some of the drivers that he used to race against, such as Teo Porcher and Lance Stroll, Marcus Armstrong, Christian Lundgaard and Richard Verschoor, all drivers who are held in very high esteem.
Yannick Mettler to dodge a couple of cars as well. He went purple in the first sector as well, so was on for a good lap, but I think just caught up with some of the traffic. And this is a constant theme you will see, of course, in this championship, but at the same time, it's up to the drivers to manage it, and that's really what defines a qualifying, and at the same time makes it so exciting as well. We're going to take a look at the replay here at this moment from Yannick Mettler, coming out of red corner, just getting it all tied up. Of course, that's the Proctor's Greystone GT McLaren. He's just in front of him then, did well to dodge it, and he'll now have to manage his next remaining laps. As we see the motor park car.
Yeah, that Lewis Proctor has just gone 5th fastest overall, which is the younger of Proctor. It's a father-son combination in that car. Lewis Proctor now going fastest in the first sector, and well, now he's going to get a bit of a taste of his own medicine here coming up on traffic. This is only a 4.3 kilometre circuit, or 2.6 miles in old money, so even you know, with only 25 cars on track, we are struggling for a bit of space here. So Lewis Proctor then in the Greystone GT McLaren, now flashing his lights to the Lamborghini ahead of him. Get out of the way, I'm on a really good lap here, mate, and trying to get ahead of that Chauvet in front of him, isn't it? Still up on Pierre-Louis Chauvet's provisional pole time at the moment, but it's not a personal best in the middle sector, and it's definitely not going to be an improvement now, because he's been held right up and now backing out of it and going to go again.
I can imagine there might have been some words mumbled, I think, under his breath after that, but naturally a sign of things that he can achieve here at Red Bull Ring. So keep your eyes peeled on Lewis Proctor. Turn 1 now. Let's see if he can recapture that same pace that he managed to muster in that previous lap and try and carry it through. But the problem is, if he continues the way he's going, he's still going to remain in behind the Oregon car.
And they're going to catch the Olymp Ferrari in front of them as well. But yes, the Scots are good at picking choice words in these particular moments, aren't they? And the father-son pairing from Aberdeen will certainly have something to say about that, I'm sure. Christopher Haas now doing what he does best, and that is setting purple sectors, because he's gone fastest overall in the meantime by just 900ths of a second. Big swap though for the Early Works driver as he went into turn 6, turning right into a left-hander, less than optimal, and he has now backed out of this lap, I think. And now Lewis Proctor still continuing to set the pace in the first sector meanwhile, and actually fastest in the speed trap as well, 242.6 kilometers an hour. This is Haas here cooling down. Can he get it back up to speed? And Proctor again has had problems in the middle sector because he's a second down now. It's actually Eddie Cheever setting the pace in the middle sector at the moment in the other Pro-Am car. We've got a string of Pro-Am cars all line astern at the moment, from 3rd all the way down to 8th. Brilliant stuff. This is Lewis Proctor. Comes across the line. This won't be an improvement by the looks of it. Definitely backed out in the last sector. He's only got 3.5 minutes left to actually try and put a lap together. I mean, he's left himself a bit more space now between himself and Pierre-Louis Chauvet. Yeah, and if he can recapture what he has already shown in the first sector in the last 2 laps, then it should give him a great chance here to marshal in a great performance, and certainly what would be a spectacular Greystone GT performance as well as they make their way up towards turn 3. Lewis Proctor trying to keep it pinned in tight. Again, going purple in that first sector, and I'd argue that's probably the best first sector he has registered here at this point. Certainly doesn't want this one invalidated as we come towards the bitter end of Q2 qualifying. We're into the final 3 minutes. Lewis Proctor now looking to dig deep, heading through towards Slosh Gold. Keep it pinned to the inside, Lewis, as he does so. Back on the throttle, just feathering it slightly. Don't want to touch the gravel on the left-hand side, but he has plenty of clean air ahead of him. The Oregon car has breezed onwards a little bit more as Lewis Proctor now heads through the inside. Christopher Haas literally bang on the money in terms of the time delta. He was 2 thousandths out in the first sector, and just look at this in the middle sector. Purple as well as Proctor loses a little bit of time in the middle sector, but still improves on his best. Currently less than 1/10 of a second separates the top 4 as Charlie Fagg has gone at second fastest. Actually, that one of those times has been deleted, but Haas now comes across the line. Can he improve on his provisional pole time? No, he cannot. So 1:28.660 is the time to beat at the moment. Charlie Fagg is in second place, and now Chauvet goes back up to the top of the times by 0.2 of a second, 28.453. Who else have we got over the line? Lewis Proctor has improved to 4th overall and Pro-Am pole as well, but the time's coming in thick and fast now. We've got 2 minutes left on the clock.
Yeah, we certainly do. Lewis Proctor, fourth fastest, knows that he can find that little bit more. Reece Barr, incidentally, also in the fold. You can just see, look at the sharp end. Chauvet, remember, there were 4 cars within the same tenth of a second. Chauvet has just blasted that away. 2 tenths clear now of Christopher Haase up at the top end. Tsunogiotto, he's obviously been promoted back up as Eddie Cheever gets demoted down to 23rd fastest, but Proctor again finding over 2 tenths of a second, just under 2.5 in fact. He's getting into the nitty-gritty of this circuit here at Red Bull Ring. Could we be in line for a shock here at Spielberg, as now we're seeing certainly Maximilian Paul Pierre-Louis Chauvet behind the wheel tries to dodge Tsunogiotto heading through the Roche and Verth curves. He's going to have to try and tie up turn 7 brilliantly as Chauvet now takes purple in that middle sector. There's been some gravel kicked up heading through this segment now as they dip down towards ring curve. Eddie Cheever notches together a P2 time himself, so that's a Pro-Am in second place. Here comes Chauvet as he looks to, well, certainly send it in towards Red Bull Mobile, back on the power straight away. Can he improve on top of what he's already secured here in the sharp end with 40 seconds still to go across the line? He can, 2 tenths faster, a 1:28.446, and Lewis Proctor joins him in the front end, second place, and 91 thousandths off the top.
Absolutely sensational. So 30 seconds left on the clock. There is still time. Oh, this is a nightmare for Diego Menchaca here, tucked right up behind the AM car in front of him. He's going to struggle to improve on this last lap, and he's currently down in 8th place at the moment. But now Charlie Fagg going even faster as well in the first sector. Proctor's done yet another purple first sector. He's absolutely dominating that section of track at the moment, but here comes Charlie Fagg now in the Ultimate Motorsport McLaren, still up on a time. He needs to take provisional pole position, currently 5th fastest. His last lap wasn't an improvement. What can he do in these last couple of corners? Charlie Fagg, after the despondence yesterday, that electrical fault denying them any chance of scoring points in yesterday's race, can he put it on pole position here? Yes, he can. It's provisional pole for Optimum by 34 thousandths of a second. What's Pierre-Louis Chauvet got to respond to it? It doesn't look like a sensational lap. Oh, was that on that lap, or was it on the previous one? Because he's absolutely flying through the gravel, but still flying through the middle sector. Here is Lewis Proctor, and he's done a personal best in the middle sector, but no! It's all gone away from him in the final couple of corners, and Lewis Proctor will have to settle for 3rd place as the checkered flag is out. Oh, what could have been on that last lap, but what a sensational qualifying for Lewis Proctor. And the team that lost the championship lead yesterday back on pole position. Just a little wiggle there at the penultimate corner for Proctor, though.
Yeah, a redemption arc, though, for Charlie Fagg and Optimum Motorsport. They were DNF for the first time this season yesterday, but they've only just gone and taken the fastest time here at this point as well. Aaron Walker making his way around the circuit too, of course, partnered with Anthony Bartone. But what a performance, a stellar showing, and I think Oregon will be pleased too. Again, we're seeing the 2 championship contenders fighting it out from last season. Remember, it was Optimum and Oregon right to the end when we went racing in the last round at Spain. Looks like we're going to unearth some old rivalries here at Spielberg with Fagg and Chauvet up on the front row. But yes, a stellar run from Lewis Proctor. What a showing, and just above a 10th of a second off the top time. And credit as well to Giorgio Tsunogiotto, securing essentially the highest AM in the timing tree right now, 11th fastest on the overall timing screen. But yeah, stellar showing. It sort of crept up and crept up. Then we had a barnstormer for the last few minutes, Chris.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, AM pole to Tsunogiotto, as you rightly mentioned. Lewis Proctor taking the Pro-Am pole in 3rd place. Championship-wise, we have Diego Menchaca in 8th place. And, well, here is the results of qualifying. It's Charlie Fagg on pole position for Optimum Motorsport, only 34 thousandths of a second ahead of Pierre-Louis Chauvet. Pro-Am pole goes to Lewis Proctor in 3rd place, then Reece Barr, building on that momentum from yesterday's maiden podium finish. Christopher Haase 5th for East Allen Audi, then Eddie Cheever and Carol Bash in the Pro-Am cars. Diego Menchaca, new championship leader, 8th, then Nicola Scherer and Yannick Mettler in the top 10. Giorgio Tsunogiotto on AM pole ahead of Milos Pavlovic, Conrad Grunwald, and then Aaron Walker and Pietro Perellini. Timo Rumpfkarl, the AM championship leaders, in 16th. Niccolo Marinangeli down in 17th. That's a disappointing qualifying for A, of course. Adam Osaka, Axel Blom and Ernst Kirkmeyer completed top 20. And then Giuseppe Cipriani, Andy Gilbert, Gino Forgione, Jahed Faisal Karim, who we saw in the gravel at turn 4, and Stanislav Jedliski is how this 25 car field will line up. And here is that pole position car back in the red zebra colours after running the red zebra chrome edition after the Spa 24 hours for a little bit. But yeah, that's an absolutely fantastic result for Charlie Fagg, and just what the doctor ordered after yesterday's DNF.
Yeah, the second pole position of the season, and that is the response from Rob McCornage, team boss, of course. Delighted with that performance. Charlie Fagg, I'm sure, elated himself. Of course, now they've got to try and turn that into a big result for the race, and no doubt they're going to have their eyes transfixed on that promise. You can just see there Alfredo Filipponi just standing by, waiting for the interview as well. But yes, jubilant scenes around at Optimum.
Yes, and rightly so. It was a good qualifying for Dehan yesterday as well, wasn't it? So that car certainly performing very well at this track, and we've been told that the turbo cars are performing quite well around here, given the altitude as well. Here's a look at Charlie Fagg then on track, pole position for Optimum Motorsport. And I think we'll be hearing from him
Charlie Fagg,
very soon.
That was a last-minute pole position.
Yeah, I've probably had easier qualifying sessions in my life, but it's nice. It's really nice for the team as well. We have obviously had a tough race yesterday, and even it looked like it was going to be a tough qualifying session, but the boys got it sorted out. So it's nice to repay them, and hopefully this is going to be the start of a bit of a resurgence for us, and we can get our championship back on track if it ever left.
Yeah, very unlucky yesterday.
Yeah, it was a shame, just because it went so well, and my teammate Sam did a phenomenal job in his stint, but we'll forget about that. It's nice because every single round other than this I've been P2, so it's nice to get pole finally. I thought I had a curse or something, so yeah, it's a great feeling, and hopefully we can have a good result.
All the best for later. Well done.
Charlie Fagg back on top then, and looking to reclaim that championship lead. That was fighting talk from the Brits, and we'll see how that pans out when race number 2 for round 5 in the International GT Open gets underway at 1:30 local time today. We'll see you then.